Welcome. Welcome to Mena's Mission. My name is Mena. Today we are trying to tackle real problems in the world, which today is extreme poverty and hunger. Many don't realize the effects that this has on so many people's lives. So we on Mena's Mission believe that raising awareness for these issues can help make the world a better place. So to do this, we have two experts on the subject, one doctor who has seen it in extreme circumstances, and one family who has lived in it their entire lives. So for our first guest, please welcome a woman who has worked in this field for 12 years, Beth Martin.
Thank you so much.
Help yourself.
And by the way, I like to be called Sarah.
Okay, Sarah, well, thank you for coming on the show. Please just tell us what you've seen with your experiences.
I have seen some horrible things in the last 12 years. People really don't realize how many and what effect extreme poverty has had on so many lives. There's approximately 1.4 billion people today living in extreme poverty. And even worse than that, people don't realize what extreme poverty is. Extreme poverty is when you have to live on $1.25 a day.
Wow.
And if you think about that, living on $1.25, that can have enormous effects on every aspect of life.
Yes.
Like, for example, people who live in extreme poverty normally don't have very good health. They are very often malnutrition because they don't get enough food. They have to look all the time for jobs and work in order to just have a meager amount of food to feed their family. And then they also have to worry about shelter and where they live, how they live. It's horrible when you think about it.
Yes, definitely. Well, can you go into more detail about some of the struggles these unfortunate people go through?
Yes, there's, like I said before, so many people live with malnutrition. They're not able to feed their families. They're not able to get enough money to pay for necessary things. Like, many people who live in extreme poverty live in a one-shelter room with dirt floors and reed mats for the roof. And if you think about that, that's horrible. And then you also have to consider where many of these people are living. They're living in war-torn areas. They're living in places that have horrible weather, like natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes. And they have to live with that all the time without any financial security. So if something's gone, it's gone for them.
Definitely. Well, based on this, what do you think is the solution to solving this problem?
Well, the solution should be found in education, of course, because when tackling the issue of extreme poverty, you can't just fix it. It's not an easy thing to just make better. You have to consider what leads into extreme poverty. So you have to consider education, and you have to consider inequality, gender inequality. Like, for example, of the one-sixth of the world that lives in poverty, 70% of those people are women and children. And they don't have the opportunity they need. They don't have the education. They just don't have what it takes to survive with this. And so we need to consider education, gender equality, new opportunities for people so that they can move forward in the world and they can make the world for them a better place.
Yes, definitely, I agree. Well, now is the time. Is there any questions from the audience? Yes.
What charities do you recommend we donate to?
I would recommend you donate to charities that help for the long-term effect, charities that don't just throw money at a problem, but they solve the problem. They help long-term, like the Heifer Project, which will give animals to families so that they can get like a goat so they can get milk, or they can sell the milk, chickens so they can have eggs, or sell the eggs, or even use the animal for meat. And then because you have to consider, like the ancient saying, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. And so you need to invest in things that will solve the long-term effects of poverty and not just one little thing.
Yes, I agree. And thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, for our next guest, please welcome a woman who has worked in hunger, Brittany Romero. Brittany. please start off just by giving us a definition of hunger?
Yeah, sure, because it's really important that people actually know what hunger is. A lot of people think it's just like missing a meal and they think they're starving. But extreme hunger is when your body is malnutritioned and not nourished enough to properly function. And extreme hunger can often be traced back to the fact that people living in poverty don't usually have jobs to support themselves and feed themselves. And if they have a large family, that just makes it 10 times harder.
And what are the causes of these problems?
Well, a lot of third world countries often face war and conflict within their governments. And when you're facing a war, there's often a lot of damage to your crops and your infrastructure. And when you're not producing crops, you're often losing out on your economic boost.
Right, and obviously there's nothing we can do about natural disasters, but what is it that we can do for these other issues?
Well, you can start out small or you can go really big if you want to. If you want to start out small, which is really important because you should just know that you can make a difference with any small thing you do, you can try volunteering at your local shelter or soup kitchen, or even donating blankets and coats to those who are homeless. And if you want to go global, you can start your own mission like just a lot of people do, especially young people, because it's really important that you start making a change when you're young.
Yes, definitely, I agree. And I think that it is possible for these people to make a difference. So, thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And next, I would like to welcome our fantastic doctor, someone who is the primary leading doctor in the International Surgical Missions, Dr. Bucali.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you. Great to be on.
Thank you.
So, I would like to start off with what Susie said.
Susie, you mean Sarah?
No, Crazy Beth.
Beth, yes.
She said that there are 1.4 billion people on this earth living in extreme poverty, and 90% of those people cannot afford the co-pays to a doctor's office. And this is because they are living in poor shelter without adequate sanitation or clean water. These are big problems that the world is facing.
Yes, definitely. And what about malnutrition?
Yes, malnutrition is a big problem. Well, you see, like, with malnutrition, there are pregnant women who are not being properly nourished, and so the baby's not being properly nourished, and therefore their growth can be stunted, they can be underweight, and they can also have mental and physical problems throughout their life.
That's terrible. And your missions, have you done any in the U.S.?
We have done some in the U.S., and let me explain what ISM is. ISM is International Surgical Mission, and I'm the leading doctor in the research and the foundation. And what we do is we go to countries all over the world. The Philippines, Guatemala, and St. Vincent. And what we do is we go there, and then we would provide free surgery for people who cannot afford it.
That is great. It's amazing. It really is. It really is.
And we have done some in the U.S. We did one in Pueblo, Colorado, and we provided free surgery for an entire week.
Well, considering that, what can people do to help contribute to continue your mission?
Well, they can always donate money. There are always fundraisers for this project. And what we really need is more people to get involved in it. More nurses, doctors, even volunteers with no medical history can go on these missions and help out and go to other countries around the world.
Right, and I would just like to thank you so much for what you do, because it truly is amazing that you offer your time to these people in other countries.
And
So
let me
thank
explain the life expectancy of people. People live on around 59 years. And people living in poverty live on average 42 years. That's big.
It's huge. That's not the fulfilling life that these people deserve.
And they do deserve it.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me on the
Thank you
show.
so much for coming. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, our last guests, so I should say, Janine and her daughter Kaylin, they have lived in poverty their entire lives, so please, a warm welcome. Make yourself comfortable. How are you two?
Good. Mena, I just want to thank you so much for all that you've done for us in the past few weeks. It's just been such a blessing to us. Having all these new clothes and food is just amazing.
It is my honor. It really is. Well, would you guys please start off by just explaining some of the things you've gone through?
Well, we've lived in Burundi, Africa for our whole lives.
And I would just like to point out that Burundi is the poorest country in the world.
Yes, it is. We've actually been struggling our whole lives. The opportunities are much less for women than they are for men, so it's very hard for me to find a job. I was selling crops for money that just wasn't enough. I actually had to sell my body and in order to provide for my daughter, Kaylin, and it was just awful. It opened me up to diseases and unwanted pregnancies. It was not the thing I wanted for my life. And I just want to thank you so much because I think I've eaten more food in the past few weeks here in America than I can ever remember eating back home in Brownie.
I'm just glad to see you guys here and doing better off here, and it really just warms my heart. It really does. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Going off of what my mom said, I just want to thank you so much for everything you've done for us. It means so much. I can't remember a time where I didn't go home and wonder, are we going to eat? What are we eating? If it was going to be safe. This past 2 weeks of my life, I've eaten more than I ever have, and this is the first new outfit I've ever had in my life, and to me that's huge. Like, I'm used to just wearing the same thing every day, and appearance isn't that big, and this means everything. And also, I'm sorry, what my mom didn't say is because of malnutrition, we lost my little brother a couple months ago.
I'm sorry.
And that was really hard on both of us, and it's just really hard. And you coming and saving us like this in our worst time of need, it just means everything.
And it truly is my honor. I'm sorry about your loss. And I hope that me, along with other people, can help other people in Burundi and other countries just like you guys, because it makes a huge difference. And seeing you better off like this, it's great. It's great. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Well, looks like my show is coming to an end, but first, I would like to point out that there's always something that you can do. You can always go out in your community and make a difference. For example, students at Pueblo West High School are currently doing a lot. They have organized canned food drives, they have volunteered at soup kitchens, and are trying to organize runs for their community, and the money, which would go to causes such as ISM and other causes in need. And I just think that it is something that everyone can contribute to, just a little bit of your time, and it is worth it. So, round of applause for our guests, please.